Hello, my name is Chani and today I will be teaching you how to make this striped crochet cat ear beanie. It has been really popular and trendy on TikTok and Instagram recently, and very conveniently it's super duper easy to make. If you're a beginner with crocheting, you could definitely finish this in under a day, and it also doesn't require too much material. I'm using a size 5 yarn, and the only stitches that you really need to know is a slip stitch for the top, which gives it this nice little pointed ear, and double stitches, which pretty much comprise the entire thing. If you like crochet tutorials and other kinds of creative content, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. With that being said, let's get right into the video. So here are the materials you're going to need for this project. You're going to need 2 balls of yarn. I chose pink and black. A pair of scissors so you can switch between those 2 colors, and appropriately sized crochet hooks. If you've never crocheted before, I can show you how to choose the right sized hook. So you can check on the slip. It shows that you would need a 5.5mm crochet hook. It also gives you all kinds of information, like how much yarn you get in ounces and grams, and how long it is in yards and meters. It also tells you what material this yarn is made out of. This one is made out of 100% acrylic. So sometimes you can't get exactly a 5.5mm hook. Right here I have a 5 and a 6mm hook. If you want your stitches to be slightly tighter, you can go for the 5, or if you want them slightly looser, you can go for the 6, but it doesn't really change too much overall in terms of the look of your project. Now that we have the right hook, we can just begin the project. To start, we're going to make the ribbing of the hat. The ribbing of the hat for my project is about 10 to 11 chains long. You can decide how long you want it depending on obviously the size of your head. You can go for a little bit longer if you want to roll it up, but I think I prefer just the ribbing as is. And here I'm just starting my chain. I'm just pinching the bottom so it's easier for me to pull through, and I'm grabbing the yarn with my hook and just pulling through that little loop that I made. And from there we have our very first chain, and all you have to do is repeat that. So I would just pinch the bottom and pull through again, and pinch the bottom and pull through again till I have it at my desired length. Again, you can go longer or shorter depending on how big you want to make it, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going for 10. When you're done, it should look a little something like this. And after that's done, we're going to chain 1 extra regardless of how long you stitch, just because we're going to be starting in the 2nd stitch and not the 1st, and we want to make sure that our work is nice and even and rounded out. I'm going to be showing you how to start your very first double stitch. So to start, you're going to yarn over, which means grabbing the yarn with the hook, going through that 2nd stitch, grabbing the yarn again and pulling through. You should have 3 loops on your crochet hook, and you should grab the yarn again, pull through 2. You should have 2 on your hook and pull through those 2 again, and you should have your very first double stitch. So just continue to double crochet a stitch into every single loop. Just make sure that they're the same amount of double stitches there are the amount that you chained. So we should have 10 by the time that we're done. And when you're done, always remember to chain 1 before you turn over your work so that your edges are nice and even and neat. I changed the camera view because I feel like it's a little bit easier to explain and see. So as we start our ribbing, we're only going to be working in the back loops of each row. So when you do your double stitch, you're going to go in between those 2 stitches at the top and only work through that back. And it should look a little something like this after you pull through your first double stitch. As you can see, there's like only that back, and it creates kind of like a little divot. So again, go through those 2 stitches and work all your double stitches to the end of the row. So once we finish this row, we're going to chain 1 as per usual before we turn our work. And we're going to just repeat the same steps that we did. So only work in that back row by pushing your needle in between those 2 stitches. And just make sure that you are doing the same amount of stitches that the amount of chains that we made. So again, I had 10 chains, and I'm going to do 10 stitches. And this is what it kind of looks like as we're going forward. As you can see, the ribbing starts to become a little bit more noticeable the more you add. Here's a little bit further. Looks pretty nice. So after that, you're just going to continue. You're just going to keep going until it is as long as you want. So obviously the circumference of your head. And when it's at the desired length, we can stop and start stitching our ribbing together. Now to connect both ends of our ribbing, we're going to be doing a slip stitch. So to do a slip stitch, we're going to make sure we line up the stitches on both sides and make sure it's lined up with the correct stitch. So that's the second stitch on each side, yarning through and pulling through that initial loop. And we're going to do that for every single one of our stitches all the way to the end. When you get to the final loop, you can chain one extra, and on that loop, like in the middle of that loop, we're gonna just cut with our scissors so we can fasten off and finish. And we can work that tail end into our project, or you can leave it on the inside of your hat since no one is probably not gonna see it anyways. But yeah, this is what that slip stitch looks like, and this is what the completed ribbing looks like. Now we're gonna begin the stripes or the hat itself, like the body of the beanie. We're going to start by taking our new color and we're going to do a chain of 3, and that chain of 3 is going to act as our very first double crochet stitch. As we go along the border, we can take the tails and we can tuck them in and work them into our row. And how you do that is you pretty much just double crochet like normal, but holding those 2 strings against the edge that we're working on. And again, just double crochet like normal and make your way all the way around. Another tip that I have is that to just make sure that your stitches are close together. Looking back at my finished project, I kind of wish that I kind of worked those first 2 stitches a little bit closer. I was being a little hasty, but yeah, just make sure you make the double stitches along the ribbing a little cleaner and evenly spaced. And when you're done, I'll meet you back and I can show you how to end the row and start the next one. So here I've actually finished 2 rows, but to save you more time, I just pretty much wanted to kill 2 birds in 1 stone and show you how to not only finish your row, but switch on to the next color. So we're just going to slip stitch onto that 3rd stitch of the chain of 3. If you're chaining onto a new color, before you finish that slip stitch, with your 2 loops, you're just going to pull through with that new color. And if you're obviously using the same color, because we're doing 2 rows of each to make the stripes, just keep that same color and not switch off. And as you can see, I'm just working my tails into the project and just double crocheting around as per usual. If you want your project to be a little longer, you can opt for another stripe. I went for 4 stripes in total and 2 rows of each color. You could also just do 1 row of each color if you wanted more stripes. It's up to you. But yeah, I will meet you back when we have finished all of our stripes and we're ready to close off our project. When you get to the final row, we are going to finally close off the beanie by doing a slip stitch all the way across. And just like what we did with the ribbing, we're just going to pinch the 2 ends together and pull through and just pull through our loop. Just make sure that each stitch is lined up with the correct stitch from the other side so that it's even. I skipped the very end bits of my beanie, like the 2 pointed parts of the ear, just because I didn't feel like I need to close it off. I also think it looks a little rounded, and I kind of like my edges of my ears looking a little rounded. You could obviously close them off with your slip stitch if you'd like, but it's all, stylistic choice. So just slip stitch all the way across, making sure that each one of your stitches are lined up, and I'll meet you back to the end and we can close off our project. So just like we ended off on our ribbing, when we do our final stitch, we're gonna chain 1 extra and we're just gonna cut that chain and fasten off by pulling on that string and closing our final row. And just like that, our hat is finished. And this is the final product. It came out really, really nicely, I think. I really like the color combo. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Kuromi. It kind of reminds me literally of Blackpink because it's literally black and pink. But I think it came out really, really nicely, and it's super warm and cozy. And if you followed this tutorial, I hope it was at least somewhat helpful. And if you completed it, I would love to see it on Instagram. You can find me here on Instagram. If you tag me, again, like, I'd love to see it. I love crochet and I love doing all kinds of creative content. So again, if you really, really like this, please subscribe, leave this video a like or a comment, and I hope you guys have a really nice day. Bye.